Now let's talk about OCD. And like with the other ones, to learn about something, best way to kind of learn about something is write about it, so you have to bathe in the research on it. So I and one of my former interns, Daniel De Corso, wrote this OCD workbook that came out in May. What's going on with OCD? Well, you have three principal neuromodulator systems, rather neuromodules that are kind of stuck in a rut. The striatum. What is the striatum? It's part of the basal ganglia, having the caudate is at the front part of it, and then you have the putamen at the back. The problem is, according to researchers, and again at UCLA, Baxter and Schwartz, that the gate is left open. The caudate portion of the striatum is left open. It's kind of like a screening agent that the gate is left open, now flooding the orbital frontal cortex with nuisance information. And it's all stirred up through the amygdala because you just feel uneasy. I got to do something. I got to have this thing sitting like this or else I'm going to blow this. It's like just a bunch of spam up there and you're trying to make sense of it constantly. So what we need to do, and what we talk about with our OCD clients, is we need to rewire this system. How do you rewire the system? Well, first of all, you got to understand that all that nuisance garbage is is what Lloyd just said. It's spam. Look at the spam. So it's a flooding of the orbital frontal cortex. We've got to close the gate. Well, how are we going to close the gate? Well, being the author of a dummies book, they needed a dummy to write a dummies book. So they said, hey, do you want to write Improving Your Memory for Dummies? I did. And I learned that a lot of these clients need mnemonics to remember what to do. So we developed a mnemonic that incorporates these concepts. We need better prefrontal, especially dorsolateral prefrontal cortex involvement here because the orbital frontal had been flooded. So that means attention is going to be critical. And that's where the observant quality, as you'll see in a minute, is so important. And then you need to access the amygdala, meaning put things in context. Every time I move this around or when I don't, it doesn't make any difference. It really doesn't make any difference. I'm putting it into context. So let's see the mnemonic. I decided that, let's come up with a mnemonic that's paradoxical and somewhat whimsical. Order. Order for an OCD person? Boy, they're into super order, aren't they? Well, there's real order that we want to develop with them. So every one of the letters in the word order relate to how to rewire your brain if you got OCD. First of all, the O is observe. And this is where we're sort of incorporating the kind of the mindfulness kind of quality. You're observing and you're not doing anything about it. You're going, oh yeah, right, I see. I'm having that feeling again that something needs to be rearranged over here. You're activating your dorsolateral prefrontal cortex because that's working memory. So that's the O. And then the R is remind yourself, that's just my OCD. Schwartz at UCLA came up with the 4 R's, and in his book Brain Lock. And well, I thought, I can't remember 4 R's. I can remember 4 R's, but I don't know which one's which. Well, R is his remind, and I think he makes a good point because once you observe, you got to remind yourself, I'm observing, and yeah, there's that feeling again. That's my OCD. So you're reminding yourself, there you're accessing your hippocampus, that this is just my OCD. So what am I going to do about that? Well, that's where the D comes in. Instead of doing what I used to do, like rearrange this over here, I got to do something different. Again, you got to do what you don't feel like doing, because if you do what you feel like doing, you're going to be strengthening the OCD circuit. So now you got to do something different. Instead of rearranging this, I'm going to do some other behavior, but I got to do it repetitively. Here's the E, as I expose myself, because you're not going to get any benefit unless you're exposing yourself to that noxious feeling of feeling like you got to do something about it because you're overactive amygdala. So you do something different while you're kind of, yeah, I know I'm doing something different, but I still feel uneasy about that. That's good. Here you're rewiring the circuit. And that's the R. So I'm incorporating CBT and mindfulness. And in fact, it's the E and the R that's the CBT. And it's the O that's the mindfulness. But what we've done is we've tried to incorporate it all in one bigger package so that it makes sense from a brain-based perspective, and we explain it from a brain-based perspective too. So it's not just, oh, this guy's got this jingle and that guy's got that jingle. We explain that these mnemonic letters relate to how we're rewiring the brain. And there's evidence, like with CBT, that the E and the R are really critical. In fact, they're probably the most critical.